What do you want me to? Welcome to Pardon the Point of View, where me and Matt Bolian talk about things. And yes, listen. Is that what you wanted me to do?
Great job. Yes. Let's get started. It felt like a ghost town when we started, but now doesn't feel that way anymore.
All right, let's do it.
I'm giving that a 1 out of 10 for the one being for the ghost town introduction. That was pretty bad. Caleb, not your fault. Totally Matt's fault. All right, question 1. Yes, PTPOV, Pardon the POV, is a show where we have people that are in the trenches of sales and ops give real opinions. Hopefully they disagree with each other. I just don't find that highly likely today. Anyway, CRM Ghost Town. It's a stat that would make every sales manager uncomfortable. 40% of CRM users only use half or fewer of the system's features. Meanwhile, 22% of sales pros still don't understand what the hell a CRM is or how to use it to its full potential. Companies invest about $9 ROI for every dollar spent on the CRM, but only if people use it. 83% of senior executives report a continuous struggle to get staff to incorporate CRM into daily tasks. You know all of this. The question is this as a binary. If your team isn't using the CRM properly, it's the manager's fault. Yes or no? 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Oh,
We'll start with Caleb.
that's a really loaded question. I think fundamentally, as an individual contributor, there is a level of personal responsibility where you're just not a lemming. And so, yes, I guess from a manager's perspective, to do their job well and have accountability, like ownership, yeah, they could take it on themselves. But the same applies to individual contributors. Like, you have to have a level of ownership for your own thing. So just to say, hey, something as widely known as the CRM, it's just, I don't know how to use it, so I'm not going to use it. It's hard for me to say you can push that blame up, especially for salespeople.
Great response. Also note, most of these questions are intentionally loaded to get you to have to take a side. So well done. Matt, you said yes. Why?
Responsibility for something getting done or not getting done always flows uphill, not downhill. And eventually someone must take responsibility. Managers are responsible for the execution of their team, and people who follow a CRM get better usage from the CRM. It is a manager's fundamental job, if you have a tool that helps you execute the job, to ensure the people on your team are doing it and instilling in them a sense of responsibility, instilling in them that they need to execute. We're putting out a state of enablement, and it shows that that leaders that inspect deals, people close at a 72% higher rate. Like it has a giant impact on just deal inspections and ensuring it's happening. The effect of the manager is much larger than we think. Yes, the buck stops with the manager, and it's not the sales rep's fault.
Well said. Caleb, also, I would say not your fault. It's not one of those books that you didn't check out from the library being thrust into this position, but I appreciate the accountability. Question 2, as we're moving right ahead, the coaching frequency paradox. So my sales coaches, shout out to Tom Boston, 2026 State of Sales Coaching, got some state of rivalry here, reported a bombshell. 45% of reps rate the coaching they receive as below average, which is actually up from 29% last year. Meanwhile, 64% of sales leaders believe they're spending more time actually coaching than 12 months ago. Here's some weird math. In teams where reps are coached weekly or more, 76% hit quota. When coaching drops to monthly, attainment falls to 56%. At quarterly, it drops even lower. Binary question is this. If you're an AE who isn't hitting quota, would weekly coaching actually fix it? Yes or no? 3, 2, 1.
No.
Ish.
Ish
is not allowed. Matt, go ahead and go first.
Yeah, Caleb didn't like these questions. They're too much. They're too nuanced. The idea, and this gets it gets to reflect. We just answered the question of it is a manager's job to make sure that people underneath are executing what they say they're doing. When you ask this question, does the person have a responsibility to hit their quota? Yes. If you complain about not having coaching and that's the reason you can't hit it, are you a good sales rep? No, absolutely not. You must be able to self-educate. You must be able to take it. Now, is it helpful? Heck yes. Is it necessary? Like, do you have to have it? And can you blame coaching for the reason you're not hitting quota? Absolutely not. Get rid of the excuses and go read a book and get better by yourself. Ask Claudia if you need to.
Excellent use of Claudia. Caleb, go ahead.
I mean,
Can you be on camera so we can use this footage, by the way,
right.
Caleb? There you go.
Okay. My problem is with the answer is like with what coaching exists today in terms of like in-house sales coaching for a manager to a rep. I've been in companies where very rarely that coaching is helpful because one-on-ones are almost always around forecast accuracy, not coaching. And so like the reason I answer no to this is because the structure of almost every sales org, the manager is not equipped to actually coach on sales skills, deal philosophy, things like that. It's just like your calls are just how close to accuracy can your forecast be, even if it's way under the number that it should be. And so I have like an interesting relationship with this question. That's why I answer no, because the actual fact is weekly coaching is set up poorly, or managers are not given the freedom to coach correctly within most large sales orgs.
Well said. Notice that neither one of you wearing the Supered stuff took a moment to plug how Supered directly solves this problem to figure out what exactly per rep needs to be coached. Rock, paper, scissors for who gets to speak to how Supered solves this.
Well, 1 second. No, I'm a rock, paper, scissors. And do it myself. I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna say this: the problem set that Caleb was talking about is what happens is, what did I say? Who's responsible for making sure rep follow a process? The managers. So if they're responsible for that, and they always will be, if they're responsible for that, what do they spend their time doing? Inspecting deals and reminding people to follow the freaking process. So in order to have time to coach or to even think about it and have the space to do it, you must get rid of the burden of having people follow the process and having specific behavior so you can coach on deal philosophy. Super gets rid of that burden, both by, okay, here's a standard set of behaviors. Now we can talk about the nuances on how do you close the deal? How do you make this recommendation that will drive and elicit a response? That's how Super solves it.
I'd agree with that.
I think that may have been the best thing you've ever said in your entire life. All right, question 3. The follow-up black hole. Everyone in sales knows the statistic. 80% of sales require 5 follow-up calls after the initial meeting, yet less than 50% of reps give up. 44% of reps give up after 1 follow-up. They do not work here. Here's what nobody talks about. The reason reps don't follow up isn't laziness. It's decision fatigue and cognitive overload. Buddy CRM research shows salespeople make countless decisions daily, prioritizing leads, personalizing follow-ups, timing outreach. By afternoon, their brains are exhausted. Some other research by Roy Baumeister proves willpower is finite. I think Matt's going to argue with this. The more decisions you make, the harder each one becomes. Here's the binary question. Inconsistent follow-up is a rep accountability issue, not a process issue. Do you agree or disagree? I'll say it one more time. You look confused.
Agree.
Inconsistent 3. Inconsistent follow-up is a rep accountability issue, not a process issue. Matt agrees. Caleb.
Disagree.
Caleb, you're up.
When you say process issue, I take that to mean like a process and a systems issue. And so actually, no, I agree.
I was about to say, there's no way Caleb doesn't agree with this.
I agree.
Okay, so your time is still going, so hold on a minute. We've gotten off track here. That's probably the fault of the host. So both people agree that that inconsistent follow-up is a rep accountability issue. I will let Caleb address that first. Go ahead.
You just got to do it. The systems are there. I mean, by default, your CRM will tell you inactivity, and by even better, Supered We'll make it really easy for you to follow the process. No activity in X days, no follow-up in X days. And so the systems are there. The decision is, are you going to follow? Are you going to hold yourself accountable to actually following up? So it does actually end up being on the rep.
Well said. Remind me of my new marketing campaign strategy after Matt tells us why he agrees.
Rep accountability means that there is someone telling them to do something, number one. So as is a process issue, it's not a process issue. A process issue means, do they know the process? Yes, they know the process. Yes, they know it's better. They know more. They don't do better. You must have, and like the 5 functions of a team from Patrick Lencioni, you must have trust in the people. You must have conflict. And so this is in order to then have accountability. So there must be something saying, like with the conflict, you are not doing what expectations have. And here is how you're doing compared to other people. That then gives you the ability to have accountability. So inconsistent follow-up is not a, I don't know better issue. It is a behavior issue. And thus you need someone saying, do the right thing.
That was well put. 30 seconds on this, since we're actually ahead of schedule. There is a lot of stuff now. This isn't a question. It's just from my head. So feel free to agree or disagree. A lot of stuff now about intent signals, right? I think Super does a really good job, if we think about it like this, of showing internal intent signals from people following the process. Do you intend to remain gainfully employed here? Do you intend to hit quota? Do you intend to follow this process? If yes, these things will be accomplished, and both parties will be able to see this. So if people can understand an intent signal from a prospect or from a potential lead or a customer, internally, that would look like, can I prove these internal intent signals by you wanting to remain employed here? Yes or no? Thoughts, Matt?
Yes, I think that's always been true. There just hasn't been a way to capture the data set for sales. It was always done on activities. Hey, have you done this many activities? Was the proxy. And you do certain activities by day. Now it is now it's about the customer experience. And are you giving them some experience? So it's the same thing, different way. One's better than the other.
I would come to you, Caleb, but you've agreed with everything so far. Thus, I just assume you'll agree that I'm the smartest person in this room. Question 4, the AI productivity paradox. Here's a stat that Matt sweats about, keeps him up at night. 85% of workers say AI saves them 1 to 7 hours per week. 37% of that time savings is lost due to rework, correcting errors, rewriting content, verifying output. This is a juicy one. Workday's 2025 study found that only 14% of people get consistently positive outcomes from AI. Meanwhile, Stanford research shows that in most domains outside coding and customer support, AI produces what feels like productivity until you measure completion rates and quality. People using AI tools take 19% longer to complete tasks than without it. Binary question is this: AI tools are making sales reps actually less productive, not more productive. Agree or disagree? 3, 2, 1.
Disagree.
Disagree.
Ooh, a shocker. Matt, you're up first on this one.
So there is and I say this, there is a illusion of power that AI gives you. And it makes you feel very powerful, but it doesn't get you to the final state. And that is anytime you introduce some complexity into something. However, it's really freaking good at helping you do individualized things where you're both the input and the output checker. And so that's a really good use case, awesome for sales. So at sales reps, it can help you write responses better. It can help you research faster. And these are like input and output tasks that you control. And so if you're a sales rep not using AI, you will be slower. For more complex, I think it actually does reduce tasks, reduce work, and you do work slower. But for the sales rep, you must use AI.
Caleb?
I disagree because I do think AI makes me more productive as a sales rep. I just think what I don't agree with is like the magnitude at which people think AI is a differentiator between me and someone that's not using AI. I think it makes me more productive. The magnitude of impact, I think Caleb today with AI selling versus Caleb 3 years ago without AI is not 300% more effective in closing deals.
I like the way you put that. We have time for one final question. Here it is. Question 5, the ramp time ripoff. Here's a number that should terrify every VP of sales. Average ramp time for SaaS AEs has ballooned to almost 6 months in last year, 2025, up 32% from just 4.3 months in 2020. Meanwhile, average rep tenure sits at 2.5 years. I think it's probably less than that. Do the math. By the time your new hire is fully productive, you've already burned through nearly a third of their time with you. Total cost to ramp a single sales rep is estimated at 3 times their base salary when you factor in recruiting, training, and lost productivity. Companies with structured onboarding get reps to be productive 37% faster, but 88% of companies admit their onboarding sucks. That's me paraphrasing the rest of that paragraph. Binary question. Long sales rep ramp times are a content and training problem, not a process and tooling problem. Agree or disagree? 3, 2, 1.
Content dream.
This
is a hard question to answer.
I'm gonna.
Hold on, let me think of my answer, and then we'll say it together.
Okay.
I'll do another countdown for us. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm gonna let Kel go first.
This is terrible.
I'm just trying to digest this question. It's a hard question to long sales rep. All right,
Let's do this then.
3, 2,
the power of the host. Just speak to this. You don't have to agree or disagree because a lot of times you can just reposition the question if you didn't like it.
We're gonna say you're gonna have to say disagree or agree. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Disagree. There we go. Okay. Okay. Caleb goes first.
Caleb, go ahead.
I think the problem. Okay, I think the problem with long sales ramp is because there's less real work incorporated into the actual ramp. Meaning, like the traditional message is like you have 30 days, you're not customer facing, all is just fully slide decks and internal ramp cohorts and things like that. Then you have 30 days with a reduced quota, but you're out in the wild, like you're doing the real job with reduced quota. And I think there has to be an integration between like the initial training has to be the real work, right? It might not be all of it, but the real work has to be integrated in the initial training, which is, part of the premise of Supered is like train while you do, not before you do. But I do think that's the case. It's too isolated heavy into go out in the wild versus training and onboarding should be integrated with the real work.
So I like that. To paraphrase, it's a content, training, process, and tooling problem when it comes to philosophy of integrating real work into training.
Yeah, the problem is the training is too separate from the real work.
I like it. Matt?
Yeah, I guess I'm interacting with this. If this is true, if ramp time's increased, it's by 2 months. Why? Despite there being more LMSs, despite there being better training, despite us having, there's a reality of we just don't have the same attention span we used to have. I think there's a reality of like humans are changing how we digest and think about problem sets. And we have less of an appetite for consumption of content that's any long form. And if you don't now have theory plus immediate application, you're going to fail just with the people set that you're going to have to dig from today. The water is polluted, if you would. There's just a different type of pollution that comes with it, and you must be able to give them practicalities much faster because the attention span is much lower. So thus training must reflect and change with how we change the society.
Panelists, Matt Bolian and Caleb King, or Matt King and Caleb Bolian, whichever way it is. Appreciate you guys for joining Pardon the POV today. You had some good POVs, and we'll see you next time. Stay awesome. Keep doing it big. Stay super.
Adios.